This session will focus on remediating existing PDF documents for accessibility. PDF remediation cannot be done using the Acrobat Reader. You do need to have the full Adobe Acrobat program installed. It's always advisable to check the accessibility of your source document, for example, Word, PowerPoint, or InDesign, before converting to PDF. But there may be situations where you don't have access to the source document, and in those cases, there are some things you can do in Acrobat to remediate for accessibility. Remediating PDFs for accessibility can be an extremely time-consuming task. You should consider whether the content you're trying to make accessible really needs to be shared as a PDF before you begin. For example, if you're trying to remediate a document that was originally created for print, maybe creating a web page that contains that content is a better option. We'll begin with a PDF document open in Adobe Acrobat for Windows. Acrobat has several accessibility remediation tools that should be added to your Tools panels for easy access. These include the Accessibility tool and the Action Wizard. You should also add a button for easy access to the tag tree. In Windows, you'll see a set of default tools in the right Tools pane, but the Accessibility tool and the Action Wizard aren't there by default, so let's add them. Click on the Tools tab to display all available tools. In the Protect and Standardize section, find the Accessibility tool and click Add. Then in the Customize section, look for the Action Wizard and add that. Click the Document tab to return to the document view. Now over in the Navigation panel, we need to be able to open up our tag tree, but the tag tree icon isn't there by default either. To see all of the available buttons, right-click anywhere in the blank area below the icons. Click Accessibility Tags to add the Tags icon to the Navigation panel. Screen reading software uses the tag tree to interpret the document structure, content, and reading order. Without any tags, the screen reader would interpret this document as blank. There are many types of tags that make up the tag tree. Some of them are there strictly to help organize the tree, tags like article, section, or div. Those are mainly there to help you navigate the tag tree. Screen reading software relies on the semantic tags that help convey the document structure. For example, heading tags indicate a heading, and they can be a heading level 1, heading level 2, and so on. The P tag indicates paragraph or body text. Graphical content would be in a figure tag or an artifact tag, depending on whether it's considered a meaningful image or just decorative. Tables are inside of table tags, lists are inside of list tags, and so on. Tags come from the source document. For example, Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or Adobe InDesign can all export to a tagged PDF. PDFs that come from scanned documents or that weren't exported properly may not have a tag tree at all. We'll be looking at a recommended workflow for dealing with those kinds of untagged PDFs. Open the Accessibility tool in the Tools panel. There are several options here, but we're going to begin by clicking Accessibility Check. In the dialog box, you'll see a list of what exactly the Accessibility Checker will be looking for. And in order to do a full check, you'll want to leave all of the options in this dialog box set to the defaults with one exception. Unless you have a need for a separate accessibility report to be generated for this document, uncheck the Create Accessibility Report button. We're just going to be fixing the issues within the software, and we don't really need a separate report. Let's click Start Checking. The Accessibility Checker Results panel will open, and the results are sorted into several categories. There are checks on the overall document, checks at the page level, specific checks if your document includes form fields, checks for alternative text on images, checks for proper table tagging, list tagging, and finally checks for good heading structure. Within each of these categories, you'll find the specific test that was run. For example, if I open up the document category, I can see that Acrobat checked for accessibility permissions. It checked to see whether the document is an image-only PDF, which happens sometimes if the document was scanned. It checked for the presence of a tag tree, checked that the document language was set, that bookmarks are available, and so on. For each of these, Acrobat indicates passed if there were no issues found. In our case, we have a few that came back and needs manual check. This means that this particular accessibility check requires human judgment in order to be marked as passed. Logical reading order is one example, as is a check of the colors used in the document to determine if they meet minimum contrast requirements. We'll look at how to verify the reading order, but unfortunately, color contrast issues need to be corrected in the source document. There really isn't an efficient way to modify the color scheme of an existing PDF. If we open up the page content section, you'll see that we have a third item that has been flagged as needs manual check, and that's navigation links. This means that we need to check our links and mark this as passed manually. Now, this document doesn't have any errors in it, but next we'll be looking at some examples of common issues that you might find and the best way to fix them. The title failed error is quite common, and this is an easy fix. Adding the title to the document metadata will allow the screen reading software to announce the document title upon opening the file, rather than the file name. It also makes the document title appear in the Acrobat title bar. To add the title to the document metadata, you can right-click the error and choose Fix. Uncheck the Leave As Is box and either add your title to the title field or correct the title that's already there if it's inaccurate. Click OK to return to the checker, and the title should now show passed. A screen reader will read the document contents in the order they're presented in the tag tree, which in some cases may not match the visible order on the page. You may need to adjust the location of certain elements in the tag tree to maintain a logical reading order for screen reading software. To verify the reading order, open up the Tags panel. If your tags tree is collapsed, you can Control-click or Option-click on the Mac to open the whole tree. Now you can use your arrow keys to work your way down through the tags, noting the highlighted sections in the document as you move down through the tree. If you find any tags that are out of order, there are two ways to correct them. First, you can grab the tag with your mouse pointer and try to drag it into the right position, which can be a little tricky. The less error-prone way would be to select the misplaced tag, right-click it and choose Cut. Then select the tag that's directly above the spot where you'd like to position the misplaced tag. When you click Paste, the misplaced tag will be positioned below the tag you selected. As you can see, moving tags around in the tag tree is a tedious and error-prone process. Fortunately, reading order errors usually only occur in complex documents that don't have a top-to-bottom, left-to-right layout. Screen reading software isn't sophisticated enough to be able to accurately describe the contents of an image. Alternative text, or alt text, is a way to add a brief description to the image properties that will be read aloud by the screen reader. This description should be added by the document author in the source document, but if it isn't, you'll see the error Figures Alternate Text Failed, and you'll have to add the descriptions in the PDF. Graphical content in your PDF will be in a figure tag if it's a graphic that's considered meaningful. That is, it communicates information of some kind. Or it could be in an artifact tag if it's purely decorative and can be safely ignored by the screen reading software. To add alternative text to meaningful images or to mark graphical content as an artifact, locate the first error in the Accessibility Results panel, right-click it and choose Fix. The dialog box that opens will allow you to add alternative text or mark the object as decorative. Then before clicking Save and Close, notice that you can move to the next figure in the document. This is a nice way to be able to correct all of the missing alternative text errors at once. When I click Save and Close to return to the Accessibility Results panel, I see that my figure's alternative text now indicates Passed. Headings do more than just provide visible structure to your document. They also serve as a navigational aid for screen reader users, and they can be used to generate PDF bookmarks in a longer document. All documents must have at least one heading, a heading level 1, which is usually the document title. Main document sections should be in a heading 2, subsections should be tagged as a heading level 3, and so on. Heading levels should always start with 1, and they shouldn't skip levels. The accessibility checker will flag errors in heading structure in the headings section as appropriate nesting failed. Right-click the first occurrence and choose Show in Tags panel. Quite often you'll find that the document title hasn't been placed in an H1 tag. To modify the heading tag, you can right-click the tag, choose Properties, and select the correct heading level from the Tag Type dropdown. Alternatively, you can simply click the tag in the tag tree, then click it one more time to edit the tag manually in the tree. Tags are case sensitive, so be sure to use all caps. Once you become more familiar with PDF tags, you may find it faster to edit tags directly in the tree. Once you've checked the document headings to be sure that they begin with an H1 and are properly nested throughout the document, and that they accurately reflect the overall document structure, you can return to the Accessibility Checker, right-click the error, and choose Check Again. When it comes to data tables, the most common accessibility error is the lack of a defined header row. Without a header row, screen reading software can't correctly interpret the cells in the table. This is the Headers Failed error. Right-click the error and choose Show in Tags panel. In the tag tree, tables are inside of a table tag, which is made up of table row tags. Each table row tag is made up of either table data cells or table header cells. Every table needs to have at least one set of header cells so that screen readers can interpret which column and row a particular cell belongs to. A common error is for the first row of a table to be made up of table data cells rather than table header cells. In order to fix that, find the table row that should contain header cells and open it. For each table data cell, you can right-click and select Header Cell from the Properties Type dropdown. Or, as we saw earlier, you can edit the cell manually, keeping in mind that tags are case sensitive. Once you've set each cell in the row as a header cell, you can return to the Accessibility Checker and recheck the table. If you run the Accessibility Checker on a PDF and find more than just a handful of errors, you may be dealing with an untagged PDF. With an untagged PDF, all of the checks will fail because there are no tags to check. In fact, if I open up the tag tree for this document, you can see that it says no tags available. If that's the case, you do have a few options. Remember that tags come from the source document, so the preferred method would be to go back to your source document in Word or PowerPoint or InDesign and make sure that you're exporting to PDF properly. For example, if you use Print to PDF in Microsoft Word or PowerPoint instead of Export to PDF, you won't get the tag tree. If you don't have access to the original source document, or if you're dealing with a scanned PDF with no tag tree, you'll need to work through some remediation steps to create a tag tree within Acrobat. And the Action Wizard has a Make Accessible option, which will walk you through a series of questions about the document, generate a tag tree, and run an accessibility check. Open the Action Wizard and choose Make Accessible. You'll see a breakdown of the steps that the wizard will walk you through, including preparing the document settings and metadata, setting the language, creating the tags, and setting alternative text. Click Start to begin the process. You may have to grant access for Adobe to be able to modify the file. And the first step is to add that metadata title. You may have to uncheck the Leave As Is box in order to add the title, then click OK. Acrobat will ask if this is a scanned document that requires optical character recognition, or OCR. If your document already contains recognizable text, you can skip this step. The best way to see if your document has recognizable text is to use your mouse to try to select some text. If you're able to select text, you won't need to apply OCR. Click No to skip the detection of form fields. Leave the reading language set to English. And finally, Acrobat will detect any figures in the document, and I'll have to determine whether the image is meaningful and add suitable alternative text, or if it's purely decorative and should be ignored by the screen reader. You can see that it detected images in this document. The first is a little decorative scroll, so I'll check the decorative figure box and move to the next figure. The second is an image that will have to be described, so I can compose my brief alternative text in the dialog box. In this case, a crowd of onlookers cheers as an oversized cart carries Jumbo the elephant to the docks. Then I'll click Next to move to the next image. In this way, you can move through your images one at a time, assigning alternative text or marking an image as decorative. When you've finished, click Save and Close. The last step in the process is to run the accessibility checker and review any lingering errors in tagging or in reading order. As an alternative to the Adobe Acrobat Action Wizard, Tufts University subscribes to a third-party tool that was designed to create alternative formats of documents for students with disabilities. But one of the options is an accessibility conversion to create a tagged PDF. The product is called SensusAccess. To use SensusAccess, choose File, then Upload your document. Select Accessibility Conversion as your output format, and choose Tagged PDF as your target format. In most cases, you'll want to choose Image over Text. This means that you want SensusAccess to leave the visible document unchanged. Simply create the tag tree. Finally, enter your Tufts email address and click Submit. Your document will be converted to a tagged PDF and emailed to you within 24 hours. It's important to note that SensusAccess tagged PDF conversion is intended for use on untagged documents. If you have a PDF that has a tag tree that maybe has a few errors in it, SensusAccess does not fix tagging errors. It treats every document as untagged and creates a new tag tree from scratch. You will still need to go into Acrobat, run the accessibility checker, and fix any remaining issues. This has been a brief look at how to correct the most common accessibility issues in PDF documents. To learn more about how to make your content accessible, check out one of the digital accessibility sessions in the Tufts Learning Center.